morning, guys, and welcome to the show. Today we have an amp dyno. Woo! Let's just hop right into it. We have a trio of Phoenix Gold amplifiers. This is the M series. We have the M25 and the M50. And lastly, the big boy, the M100. And we're gonna see what kind of power they'll put out using our SMD D'Amore amplifier dyno, also known as the AD1. The first amplifier up is going to be the M25. Certified dyno run, stereo, 4 ohm, M25. We have channel 1 at 34 watts, channel 2 at 52 watts. Let's reset and run it at 2 ohm. Wow, at 2 ohm we're actually getting less power. We're getting 41 watts and 24 watts.
Channel 1 at 2 ohm does more than a 4 ohm. And channel 2 does less.
Next is uncertified dyno run, 2 channel, 4 ohm. Uncertified, we have 37 on channel 1 and 65 on channel 2. Reset and run at 2 ohm. Uncertified brings us to the closest we've gotten to the channels putting out the same amount of power. 40 watts on channel 1 and 41 watts on channel 2. Last we'll do is the dynamic power run, 4 ohm. Brought us to 50 watts and 63 watts respectively. Let's see what it'll do at 2 ohm. Wow. We got 72 watts on channel 1 and 109 watts on channel 2 out of this little 25 watt amplifier. Not too bad. This amplifier will do mono. Let's see what it'll do. First up is the certified run at 4 ohm. We got 155 watts at 4 ohm. Reset and do uncertified. Oh wow. All right. Ooh, she's going. Oh man. All right. She squeaks out a 214. Not bad. The last test is going to be the dynamic power run. And dynamic power is definitely where this amplifier is giving us the most shine. 223 watts. Not bad out of this little 2x25 watt amplifier, as I said. Way to go. With the M25 out of the way, it's time to see what our M50 can do for us. First test up is the certified run at 4 ohms, and that yields us a 76 watts on channel 1 and a 72 watts on channel 2. Let's reset it and see what it'll do at 2 ohm. We get 107 watts and 103. Next test is uncertified, 2 channel at 4 ohm. We pick up a couple more watts at 78 and 74. 2 ohm is next. Wow, 110 and 103 out of this 2x50 watt amplifier. Not too bad, doubling its power for sure. Next will be the 2 channel dynamic power run. At 4 ohms, we're getting 112 and 107. We'll reset it and take a look at 2 ohm. Wow, and that brings us in at 153 and 152. Just like the previous amplifier, when doing this test, the powers seem to match up pretty close. Time to reset and see what this will do 4 ohm mono. The first mono run we're gonna do is certified 4 ohm, and that brings us to 252 watts. Let's reset it and see what it'll do uncertified. Gives us a 277 watts. Last up is going to be the dynamic run. Oh my gosh. Holy cow. 400 watts right on the button. That's awesome for this 2x50 watt amplifier. Not too bad. Let's take a brief pause from the dyno action. One of the amplifiers that Jeff provided us with, specifically the M100 here, it came in the box with the instructions and all those cool things that, well, looking at a classic amplifier like this is kind of cool. And I say classic amplifier, so for those of you that aren't familiar with this particular line of Phoenix Gold amplifier, this was produced between 1992 to 1996. Holy cow, right? The fact that they even still work is a testament to how well these things were built. Let's open it up and take a look at what you would have gotten in the box. I'm assuming the bubble wrap is new. However, get that out of the way, and what you'll notice is here, this packaging paper, this is Team Phoenix Gold packaging paper. It's kind of nice. So the amplifier would come like this, and well, this is a pretty decent sized amplifier, but it has this, which we're going to take a closer look at. A little bit of history about the M series Phoenix Gold amplifiers. According to Jeff, which is where I'm getting all this information from, so if you disagree with any of it, please feel free to take it up with him. This was the little brother to the MS and the MPS amplifier. This was brought out as a affordable excellent amplifier. It even says it on the box, affordable excellence. This didn't come with the cool plexi bottom and all the frills that the bigger, badder brothers did come with. This was just the bare bones, let's make awesome sound. However, not too bare bones, because this was the first of the amplifiers to come with onboard crossovers. Now these back then were designed to run whole systems. They did a thing called mix mono. For some of you that remember back that far, that meant you could take and put a left and right speaker on it, and then also use the bridged to go off to a subwoofer. You'd build big passive crossover networks, or they also had the XR14 and the XR12. One was a 4 ohm, one was a 2 ohm, and they would have the crossovers built for you for the output to the subwoofer. But since we're talking about crossovers, let's dig into this, because, well, this is pretty neat, and I like this because it's a part of history. Like all owner's manuals, they have the before you begin installation, the warranty, but then they have the feature set. This feature set really shows how times have changed in manufacturer's thought process. First one is a 2x100 watt amplifier, bridgeable outputs, trilinear output capacity, simultaneous stereo and bridge mono configuration. That's what I just talked about with the mixed mono. Stereo 12 dB per octave, continuously variable crossover from 30 to 500 hertz, selectable high pass, low pass, or full range for internal amplifier, and high pass, low pass for external out. That means that this could be a highs amp, and then you could have the RC output go off to your other amplifier, and if it didn't have a crossover, this could provide the low pass crossover for you. Adjustable high Q bass EQ, the more better bass button that has between 0 and 12 dBs of boost at 45 hertz, which was pretty common back then. Uses pulse width modulation, switching power supply. Have you ever seen this on a newer amplifier? Like, they don't tell you this stuff. Stable to 1 ohm stereo loads. We're gonna test it for that. High current, high voltage, triple Darlington output devices. 2-layer, 2-ounce gold-plated copper G10 glass epoxy printed circuit boards. What? Like, nobody says this. Variable input sensitivity between 200 millivolts to 2 volts. On the side of the box, this does say it goes up to 5 volts. Thermal overload protection. Superior muting circuit assures no turn on or turn off noise. Because remember, back then, turn on and off pop was a big deal. A lot of amplifiers had it. Optically isolated input design. This does not have a Toshlink input at all. It's all RCAs. I don't know. VI limiting circuit with overcurrent LED. Extensive burn-in and SQ testing for ultimate and reliability. They tell you in the feature set, like, this is a feature that they turn on their amplifiers and test them before they ship them to you. Nobody says that. Low RFI and EMI design, and then right here on the bottom, made in the good old USA. It actually says good old USA. I'm not making that up. Specifications for this particular amplifier: 4 ohm, 12 to 13.8 volts DC is between 100 and 160 watts. At 2 ohms, same voltage between 200 and 250 watts. Bridged power output at 4 ohm, same voltage between 335 and 455 watts. I bet you we get way more power than that. Total dynamic output power, 1001 watt. That makes a little bit more sense. I could see it doing that. THD at 4 ohms, less than 0.02%. Frequency response is going to be between 10 and 30,000 hertz, plus or minus 1 dB. Signal to noise ratio is less than 100 dBs, between 20 and 20,000 hertz. Minimum output load impedance is 1 ohm. Idle current is 2 amps. Current consumption is one of the sections. Jeff was kind of like, hey, you might want to point this out. This was important. This was one of the things about the M series amplifier that you really had to pay attention to, was that at 4 ohm, it's a 40 amp current draw. Typical and average amplifier. But as you start to lower that impedance, 2 ohm, it went up to 70 amps. And of course, 2 ohm stereo or 4 ohm mono, it was also at 70 amps. The amplifier would immediately draw more power, which means bigger power wire, different fuse holder. This is something you don't see amplifier manufacturers put out anymore, which is kind of sad because we know that these amplifiers at 4 ohm aren't drawing as much current as they are at 2 ohms. However, some of them are because power supplies have changed a lot, but this was a cool feature that they put in the owner's manual. Efficiency was 80%, and of course they give you the sizes and fun stuff like that. Moving through to the standard breakout of the amplifier. Remember, this amplifier was made in the 90s, but let's take a look at the end here. One of the cool features about it is, well, you can't see this on the side of the amplifier, so they mounted all the information here on the top. So when you mount it into your location, for us, let's say on the back wall of an F-150, when all the stuff is silk screen here, we can't see it. This was a cool design. A couple manufacturers do have it like this, which is nice. I like this. We have our 2 sets of speaker inputs here. Left is positive, negative, right is positive, negative. The bridge is the old school, left positive, right negative. We have a clip light. This clip light works. I know, back in the 90s, we had distortion detection built into the amplifier that actually was pretty accurate. We've tested it while setting up for the dyno. Your gain input, 2 to 0.2 volts. EQ, bass boost, has a little push button here to turn on and off the high or low pass crossover. Your RCA inputs, over here are the RCA outputs. Internal crossover, and whether you want an external crossover. If you hit this button, it'll go external. This is the standard input for the bass knob. It just uses the same phone jack we currently use. And over on this end, we have 3 LEDs. A red, a yellow, and a green. The red is the overload indicator. When this LED lights up, it indicates the amplifier has one of 2 problems. Pass more than 16 amps of current in the output stage, or pass more than 440 total watts, obviously a bit more than this amplifier is rated for. We'll see about that. The yellow is the THL, or thermal indicator. If the amplifier gets too hot, this will turn on. And of course, the green is the power. It has 4 gauge inputs over here. 4 gauge back in the 90s was like, wow, you're running what? Most amplifiers, they'd have 10 gauge. If you're lucky, would have 8 gauge. So to have a 4 gauge input on it, this is a serious amplifier. The next page, this is cool. As you can see, the way this heatsink is designed here, heat rises, and they're showing you that here on this page. When running this amplifier all the way into the dirt, as they say on that ohm load, you want to make sure that you're using this heatsink as optimally as possible. Mounting it flat like this will do that. When you mount it upside down, they're showing you, well, the heat is going to rise up through the amplifier and this thing is going to overheat. And when you mount it on the side of something, heat starts fine, but will multiply as it goes up through the heatsink on the amplifier. They go through and show you the standard, make sure you add a fuse, and how to actually use a fork terminal to connect to their amplifier. Don't just twist a wire into something and jam it in there. The mixed mono we were talking about, that brings us to this section here. Crossover slopes and component values. It talks about using a coil and a capacitor, making a 6 dB crossover network. When you move on to the next page, it talks about using a cap and a coil, or a coil and a cap, to make a 12 dB crossover. And of course gives you all the values that you could use to design your passive crossovers. As we move on through the owner's manual, it does the one cool thing like that I always like looking at is that system configuration. It gives you ideas of how to run this. In this case, it's showing you using an M50 to power up your mids and highs, designing passive crossover networks to do that, and then out of the M50 into your M100 to run your subwoofers, more system configs. And then the ultimate system configuration if you were going to run this amplifier to power everything, the whole system, the whole kit and caboodle, your subwoofer, your mids and highs, go to town. One big amplifier to power everything. No 5-channel amps here, all passive. Oh my gosh. Could you imagine that? Just a 2-channel amplifier with passive crossovers? Could you imagine that, Fernando?
Oh my gosh.
I know, how is that even possible? Active, all the way active. And then they go through and explain how to set up the gain on the amplifier. And I love this because step 2, adjust the volume control on your head unit, cassette, CD, etc. to approximately 3 o'clock or 3/4 volume settings. Pretty much what we still do today if you don't have a DD1 or a oscilloscope or something like that. And they actually show you, yeah, anyways. Turn the gain setting adjustment on the M100 clockwise, i.e. to the right, until you hear the amplifier distort. Oh my god, this is a manufacturer telling you to use your ear for tuning. tuning. But I love this next part. The M100 clips very softly, so this can sometimes be difficult to adjust. Please listen carefully. Could you imagine that? Anyways, I just wanted to take the time to go through this. We know you guys want to see what numbers this thing is going to put up, so let's get this thing over to the dyno. First test is certified 4 ohm 2 channel, and she gave us 206 on channel 1 and 193 on channel 2. Next test is the 2 ohm test. At 2 ohm we got 287 and 270. Uncertified run 2 channel 4 ohm 205 and 193. At 2 ohms 287 and 270. Let's do some dynamic power. At 4 ohms we get 204 and 193. And at 2 ohms we get 354 and 347. We'll get this rewired and see what it'll do at 4 ohm mono. First test up, certified dyno run mono at 4 ohm. Wow, and she brings us to 736 watts. Let's see what she'll do uncertified. Take us to a 737. But the big test I'm waiting for is dynamic power. I want to see what this guy will do. Oh man, wow, look at that. And the big boy, the big M100 takes us all the way up to 804 watts, which if you think about it is double what the M50 was. So that's right in line with the thought process that went on back there in the 90s. But Jeff tells us we might be able to squeak a little bit more out of this one at 2 ohm. Let's give it a try. And holy cow, we do. We get 1154 at 2 ohm. Not too bad, not too bad. Well guys, we hope you enjoyed this. We'd like to give a special thank you to Mr. Jeff Smith for providing us with these amplifiers on the first Amp Dyno video, like official Amp Dyno video. We've done one just for fun on a Saturday, but this is the first one. We hope you guys enjoyed it. Of course, I know in the comments you're gonna tell us what you think. Please, by all means, constructive criticism would be great. We have a lot of these that we want to do. If there's anything we missed or something you'd like to see, please let us know and we can always work that into the next one. Jeff has a closet full of amplifiers and well, he's pretty excited to have his amps tested. And with that, don't ask to send me your amplifiers because like I don't want to test your amplifiers. Jeff's a close friend. He lives right down the street from my house. He's also told us that, hey, if you blow them up, it's not the end of the world. I have 4 more that match them. That's it, as they say. Fernando!
On to the next one, guys.
You guys have a great night as always. We'll see you later next time.
Bye.
Bye.